Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to the Commander-in-Chief of the EFF, Julius Sello Malema, EFF officials, commissars, the leaders of the Progressive Caucus, and sympathizers of the revolutionary movement in Africa that turns 11 years old on the 27th of July. To be young is to be in a stage of becoming, of working towards your goals and aspirations to transition from being dependent to independent. However, the youth of this country are perpetual children, and some will never know independence until their old age. At the realization of how doomed we are under your leadership, Mr. President, thousands continue to give in to Nyaupe, and young women and girls amount to bottle girls for you and your friends at the peak of their vibrancy and zeal for life and prosperity. We live with our parents, and finding a 40-year-old man asking his mother for bread is more common than otherwise. This phenomenon is known as the Ramaphosa economy. Joblessness, poverty, and constantly questioning if we are truly the young adults of today. In 2018, Mr. President, you launched a jobs summit and promised the youth of this country 275,000 jobs per year. You failed. In 2019, you promised 2 million jobs and an end to hunger, halving of crime, and empowering the school curriculum where a 10-year-old will be able to read for comprehension. You failed. In 2020, you unveiled a 100 billion rand fund to create jobs in the public sector for the youth. You failed. You launched the NSP against GBV and femicide, and 4 years later, on the eve of elections 2024, the murderer of Kirisaleti Elsin Donje was granted bail of 2,000 rands. You failed. In 2021, you spoke about building new cities, and the National Youth Development Agency would fund 1,000 young entrepreneurs in 100 days. You failed. In 2022, plagued by your own failures over the years, you promised the National Youth Service would create a modest 50,000 jobs in its first phase. You failed. In 2023, you came here and praised yourself for the youth employment service that placed 100,000 youth in peace jobs that lasted nothing more than 12 months. Once again, you failed. Yesterday, you came to this house and promised 2 million jobs to the youth of South Africa. It is thus fair and deliberate to then say that this time next year, the result will once again be not achieved and failed. When you became president in 2018, youth unemployment was sitting at 43%. And nearly 7 years into your presidency, youth unemployment currently sits at 45% for individuals aged 15 to 34, and a whopping 59% for young people aged 15 to 24. Your presidency is characterized by many promises and many failures. It is now apparent that as the youth of today, we must ready ourselves psychologically like the youth of 1976 for the biggest fight against the establishment. The establishment has charged you, Mr. President, at the forefront as the weapon that is formed against us. The youth of today, like Nelson Mandela, who is now hailed as an icon of peace, must be ready to be called terrorists. We must be ready to be called criminals. We must be ready to be jailed for crimes we did not commit. We must be ready to be character assassinated like Idam Mntwana, Robert Sobukwe, Nkgopotshe Tiro, Steve Biko, Winnie Mandela, and Julius Malema. But amongst ourselves as the youth of this country, we know who the true criminals are. We know who stole our land from our grandmothers. We know who stole our mines. We know who stole COVID-19 funds that was meant to keep our people alive. We know who stole Tembisa Hospital money. We know who stole SAA, ISCO, Sasol, Telkom. We know who is now stealing Eskom, Transnet, PRASA, and even privatizing our water. All the while, you are creating an impression that these are natural disasters, despite the fact that they are orchestrated by the true criminals of the government of today, deployed by the Oppenheimers. We know who stole the money that is meant to eradicate pit toilets in the Eastern Cape. We know who stole NSFAS money. We know the mafias of the Steenhof heist. We know the thugs of the Skills Development Fund, and we definitely know who the #1 money launderer is. There is absolutely nothing that the establishment, masquerading as a government of national unity, can do to deter us, the youth of today, from seeking out our generational mission. The government of the ANC has not fooled all of us. It is under the ANC that we saw privatization of state-owned entities at a large scale, much higher than that of the apartheid government. A trail of privatization that is so aggressive that even our healthcare isn't spared through the NHI. The rise of the establishment and the collapse of the state takes shape under the government of the ANC. That is the legacy of the ANC today. The positive outcomes of all of this neoliberal facade of the government of the day is that we now rightly characterize the neoliberal agenda encompassing of all its participants who are part of the GNU coalition. We now know who the enemy of economic freedom is. Even if in the past they pretended to be a part of us and spoke like the forefathers of the emancipation movement. The battle lines have been drawn. It is the subject of the Oppenheimer, the GNU coalition versus the people of South Africa. The youth of this country will continue to chant economic freedom in our lifetime. We will continue to present bills in this house that call for expropriation of land without compensation. We will continue to call for nationalization of mines, banks, and other strategic sectors. We will push back against your corruption and hold the captains of the ruling class accountable. We will fight for the scrapping of student debt and continue to call for quality, free, and decolonized education in our lifetime. We will continue to call for free healthcare, housing, water, and sanitation. We will continue to remind you that the young people in this country deserve real jobs. It's 6 months. We want industrial development, insourcing of security guards and cleaners, free pads, Mr. President, and all those rent manipulators to be arrested and to rot in jail. The people's power is rising in Africa, and we will not be left behind.
Today, 25 years after the attainment of political freedom, the face of poverty, of landlessness, unemployment, homelessness, of poor health, of abuse, is still largely black. It is young and is most likely women. In your address, you only mentioned this identity once. You, Mr. President, have sold your soul to the captains of the industry, who are wholly white and are men. In return, you have made it your mission to sell dreams to the people on whose ticket you now occupy your office. While you are dreaming, sir, black youth are unemployed or languishing in jail because of your failure to secure their future. Black grandmothers are raped daily with under 2% chances of ever finding justice. And black people in general are still landless. They do not have the luxury to dream as your white-gotten wealth allows you to. I'm infuriated by your tone-deaf attitude to thousands of lesbian women subjected to corrective rapes and facing their tormentors in the streets because our criminal justice system cannot protect those who sex differently. Your government, Mr. President, is responsible for many and the most heinous of crimes. You jailed Kanya Kageshe. You jailed Boinkosi Kanyile and are complicit for the brutal murders of Benjamin Petla, of Bongani Madonsela, just because they asked for a free education that you promised them when they were still toddlers in 1994. You have over 1 million students across all universities, but you can only accommodate just under 130,000 students. Where must the rest stay?
Thank you.
Without any intention to build new universities or expand the capacity of the current universities and TVETs, where do you want all these learners in South Africa to go? I will also take this time to remind you and your colleagues, Mr. President, of Thandi. Thandi is the black girl born in 1992 that Trevor Manuel used to illustrate her positionality when he presented the IMF-imposed neoliberal NDP during his time as Minister of Planning in 2011. The NDP has failed to locate Thandi. Today, Thandi is excluded.
Honorable Member, what are you raising, Honorable Member?
Thank you very much. A point of order, the conduct of members who come to Parliament in terms of the gallery. The former member who's sitting up there, who's taking pictures, who is not supposed to be in the house.
Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker.
Honorable members in the gallery, you are welcome, but please don't break the rules.
Deputy Speaker.
Go ahead, honorable member.
Deputy Speaker.
Allow your speaker to proceed.
Oh, no,
honorable
on a point of order. Don't allow these people who are suffering from jealousy to disrupt this young, brilliant black woman
Honorable
from
Rose,
delivering a speech. This is a maiden speech.
You are disrupting
This
her
is
yourself.
a maiden speech, Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
Can
and
you please give her a chance?
And you are, no, honorable
You're
member.
jealous, man.
Take your seat.
She's outshining you.
You are out of order. You are out of order. Honorable members, allow the member to speak.
On a point of order,
What's your point of order, honorable member?
we're asking you to protect her. It's a maiden speech.
Honorable member,
Please protect her, and you are not doing that.
honorable member, you raised point of orders in the middle of her presentation
No.
yourselves.
No.
Just like all other members are raising points of order.
No,
The rules require that we must listen to anybody in the house who raises a point of order.
Please
She's no different. A point of order is raised in the house, it must be listened to. We can't assume that it can't be said. Please take yourself, allow her to proceed.
Deputy Speaker, a point of order is called of people who are doing something in the gallery. You have not seen them yourself. You call them to order. You
Honorable
have
member.
not seen what she's talking about. Instead of telling her to sit down so that you protect the speaker, you sustain her.
I'll
order.
invite you
Please
in future,
protect her.
Honorable Malema, I'll invite you in future to help me make orders in the house. Not today. Honorable member, proceed.
Today, Thandi is excluded from Rhodes University for protesting against rape culture. Thandi is financially excluded from completing a qualification because your NSFAS did not pay for her last year of study. Thandi was turned back from a clinic because of shortage of contraceptives. Thandi then fell pregnant and was again turned back from hospital because the waiting list for abortion services can stretch out to over 5 months. Thandi is now the 1 in 4 women who will live in absolute poverty for the rest of her life for having kept a baby she did not want and couldn't prevent carrying because of your government, Mr. President. Thandi is one of the 1,200 young women who got infected with HIV today, despite numerous global efforts available to prevent this from happening and your failure to have it accessible for Thandi in Taung. Thandi was protesting outside Parliament demanding health rights for her fellow domestic workers a few days before your address, Mr. President. Thandi is on Nyaupe, and she will commit suicide before the new dawn because of depression. Thandi is also landless. Thandi is a rape victim living with her rapist in the same house because your police officers lost the docket. Thandi is unemployed and will remain unemployed for the next decade because you, Mr. President, cannot cater for her needs in your job creation plan that rules out 80% of unemployed young people for the next decade. All these social ills and failures of your government reproduce the kind of violence our country is associated with today, and you have not the slightest idea of how to resolve this. Let us therefore tell you what you should consider once again. The state must ensure 50% women representation in all spheres, representing economic benefit, political participation, managerial and leadership responsibility. The state must introduce compulsory gender education and training for all, from school level up to the highest level of all public services. The state must introduce compulsory education of police on gender justice and establish specialized law enforcement units to deal with women-related crimes. The time for meaningless frameworks and commissions on the gender question has long expired, Mr. President. Introduce a special inspectorate in the Department of Labor to monitor, report, and enforce gender parity and equality in the workplace. Don't just talk decriminalization of sex work if you do not mean it. Stop unfair discrimination against LGBTQI individuals when they want to adopt children in need. Decommodify basic needs such as education and health so that they are driven by need and not maximization of profit. Your focus on health should be on primary health with commitment to attainment of universal healthcare coverage, quality clinics with strong immunization and vaccination programs, prevention, promotion, and education-oriented primary health care. Protect and promote informal traders and allow them to trade in the streets of Braamfontein, Sandton, Hatfield in Pretoria, Sea Point in Cape Town, and taxi ranks where women vendors get threatened with rape every day. And lastly, Mr. President, lastly, if you are unable to do all of these things, move over and allow Thandi and other fellow young people to wake up South Africa from this nightmare you have collectively subjected us for the past 25 years.
Honorable Zungula.